right, we are live with the man. Ross Campbell. How you doing, man? How you doing? Let me kill the music too. We got way too much music. There we go. Okay, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm glad I could finally hop on Slop.Computer.
Yes,
crazy
welcome to
got going on here.
Yes, it's pretty weird. It's pretty weird. Yes. Are you? No, I gotta get it set up. That's what every guest does that when I do it. I gotta get it set up so you
every time.
Yeah, it's like a human thing. Like when I start making
to imitate other people.
Yeah,
to calm down. Yeah, definitely a thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Two introverts. Let's do it. Yeah.
Yes. I consider myself an introvert, but I just force myself to be an extrovert to come talk to good introverts like yourself, because you probably don't do a lot of talking about the cool stuff you're building, even though you're building some really cool stuff.
I think it's one of my biggest issues is I just throw stuff at the wall and then just run away or something like that. So I definitely have to tell people about it. And especially with AI, no one's going to believe anyone did anything anymore unless you can actually explain yourself and articulate and show you actually thought about the thing. So I'll definitely try to do more of these calls and show my face a little bit more rather than be the shadowy supercoder persona. Yeah.
It's working though. So okay, yeah. So you used to be a lawyer. I feel like that's a weird introduction. I had LexNode on here on here yesterday.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a weird journey, but it's actually not so weird because all I'm doing is just staring at code or like I would say, it's just contracts all the way down. Either I'm writing a script that tells a human or a bank to do some sort of instruction, or I'm telling a computer to do it. For me, it's all the same thing. And my preference, at least for the smart contract stuff, is it's self-executing, right? So you set, forget, and I think that's kind of the mode with a lot of things. Going forward is how much can be of any machine, how much human involvement is actually necessary in order to allow people to collect, trade, do whatever they want to do. So definitely more on this whole automation bandwagon, and it's you can either be part of the change or resist it. And I don't want to call myself young because I don't look that young anymore, but the younger generation, at least
you're younger than me.
It's definitely more our interest to be the disruptors versus the gatekeepers on this kind of stuff. So
and you said you deployed things and ran away too. This is a healthy thing. You build a lot of walk-away test passing items.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a practical legal reason for doing that. Obviously, if you control something, especially controlling other people's money for them, it's obviously liability-inducing and also stress-inducing. Every contract I've ever written, smart contract or legal agreement, it's definitely it sticks with you. You live with what you make. So if I can build something that ideally works, as I intend it, repeat use, and I can just walk away and continue building other things while that keeps working in the background. That's definitely my preference versus hand holding and maintaining one piece of software forever. So I think it feels to me just from a practical, even lazy perspective to just write the code and just let it run forever, right?
But so, I mean, there's a big problem with that, and that is that generally, if you build a smart contract that passes the walkaway test, people have to talk to it through Etherscan or something, and there's this whole issue with the front end, and kind of the way you get around that is you're putting all these simple front ends on chain, which is such a cool idea and also kind of crazy. But yeah, you want to talk about that a little bit too?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. And I mean, from my perspective, these aren't the fanciest dApps ever. They're not the fanciest front ends, but if you can do something where the software can be self-hosting, obviously that's going to be the preference. I don't have to pay, maintenance bills. All I have to do is pay the gas once, and then Ethereum will take care of the code for me. So for the front end perspective, we've seen plenty of hacks where the smart contracts were perfect, but then the front end had injection attack or some other issue, and then it's the developers are still going to be blamed regardless, even if the third party was involved or their dependency went down or there's some other issue. So there's a CYA, cover yourself perspective of any mistake I want to make should be my own. I don't want to bring on other mistakes, other people into my process, my code, my work. Maybe that's a little bit of a control freak thing, but I think a lot of other lawyers also understand that. Like, they're very protective over their forms, what they write, how they code. It's a very personal process, I would say. So at least for the front ends, I don't want to have to ever have to touch the front end code and have to keep updating it. If I can actually pull off putting a swap tile instead of smart contract, then yeah, it goes without saying that'll be my first choice. If you want me to unpack what I'm doing here, I can obviously do that.
First of all, this loaded really, really fucking fast. There must be just some raw HTML that you load from an RPC or something.
So the HTML is just in the bytecode. I'm using the Xcode copier, the literally just deploying a smart contract, and you read the actual code of the contract to get the strings to build into the.
You don't even do a read function from the contract. You actually get the code from the contract, and that's the HTML. Mm-hmm. Why was the reason for that?
I mean, there's a code size issue. So strings are actually very bloaty on the blockchain, especially Ethereum. So with even just this very simple front end, that's 10 to 11 smart contracts you're looking at just to build this front end with the buttons and the quoting and the nice little icons. And I can go into the icons themselves too. There's a whole area here of token lists. This is another thing that is annoying to me as a developer is what is the token logo? Is this the official token? What's the name of the token? Trust Wallet, others have that on GitHub. Uniswap's doing a good job with their token list, but it seems obvious that if you can just put this on the blockchain, you do that. And then when people go to Etherscan, if you actually go to the FWA token contract on Etherscan, you can actually see that contract address has an NFT on it from my token list contract. And that token list contract, those NFTs hold the actual SVG, the metadata that populates my dropdown in this swap tile.
So you made your own NFT and then you mint it to whatever contract it is. So then you know which one it is. Wow.
Yeah. So it's notorious and obvious if I use the legal term. It's this is the publication. I'm saying this is the legit FWA smart contract, not any other pretender. Because obviously, if there's an incentive to copy a token, people are going to do it. They're going to deploy 1,000 FWA tokens just on the off chance that somebody's going to click the wrong one. So, yeah, it seems for my own liability, for my own sanity, I got to get the tokens right that I put into my DEX, or else even if I have the perfect DEX, if people are trading scam coins, it's still going to be my fault and my problem, and my problem with the road. So. Yeah, if you actually go into, you can see the token listing there.
Is it this one right here?
Exactly.
Okay.
You'll see the SVG, little data there. It has the description. All the stuff that you would otherwise have in the JSON.
Okay.
I just put literally into the NFT card, and that can be edited by a multi-sig that I run with a couple other developers. And these are all just from my perspective, common problems that any blockchain developer is going to have to deal with if they want to do anything in DeFi. So it's if I can clean up my own house and build these things, they're obviously anybody can use the token list. They can see the NFTs, they can take the data, and that ideally generates some goodwill, some lendiness to the VSwap exchange, because we're trying to do a good job of listings. In addition to building a good swap experience, reliable quoting, and the quoter, is also a big part of this whole exchange and piece of tech. Something that I think should be easy for developers is just getting a price of a token, in terms of other tokens, a quote. And a lot of APIs for quoting for DEXs are paid or KYC blocked or they're rate limited. And that's not a good developer experience. It's not encouraging if you're trying to build this open finance stuff, if you have to pay 10 different middlemen just to build your decentralized application. If you're going to build a decentralized application, ideally everything you need is just out there, on Ethereum already for you, and you can actually create value at that point, rather than your margins are already nuked because you're paying all these intermediaries to build DeFi. So table stakes is things that should be public or free. Somebody should deploy this. If not me, somebody else is going to do this because they're annoyed about it. And then can I collect this in a way that's accessible to people The ZSwap exchange, I think, is like fun, not only because it's like a DEX, you can trade, you can use it, but it sort of like represents all the different tools and things that I'm trying to put out there that hopefully other people can use to make their own DEX, or even the order book allows you to sell an NFT. There's these basic financial like goods or rights that I think if developers can just build these tools, they'll have knock-on effects as Legos, and ideally people can build cool things with what I'm doing. And yeah, I'm kind of rambling here, but I think it's like
there's a lot
we're
here.
on SlopComputer.
I think we're on the slop away, sir. This is fascinating.
Yeah, and I can talk about like the AI part of this, because
Yes.
the Z quoter, my quoting smart contract, I wrote the Uniswap quoting methods by hand because I was pretty familiar with Uniswap. They've been around the block for a long time, but there's so many different ways to source on chain these days. You can direct stake the Lido. There's Curve Exchange, of course. And when I was building the Z quoter, I was like, this is a Frankenstein monster at this point. There's like 20 different view contracts I'm working with, and AI basically is like, for me, a force multiplier. Like something that would take me probably 1,000 hours to do, I can probably do in like a couple hours to 10 hours, just using the AI auto coding, for things like the Z quoter. So people, I should say it's demystified in the sense of people who have like a clear objective these days, and maybe ideally know where to find things. Like my exchange uses the Uniswap V2 quoter, uses the Curve Exchange quoter. If you can assemble these things and know where to look, AI is like excellent at just compiling all that and just like bringing it actually home to you, so you can actually ship a product like this much more quickly. It would be like inhumane to make humans do all this. I think like probably like 100 humans over like thousands of hours just to build this like little swap tile. So I think the cost of shipping is like drastically lower now. The time cost, the financial cost. So I think there's just like a small glimpse at what we're probably all going to see once people really like roll up their sleeves and see what's possible. I definitely want to encourage people to use AI as much as possible, especially for like view or read-only smart contracts. Like you're not necessarily involving user funds. There's no reason to spend human hours just to like aggregate data, as it were, and it's easy enough to prove if it's valid or not with simulations.
And like front ends,
in terms
like
of
putting front ends in contracts, like no human should ever have to do that ever anyway.
it would be cool to make me do all this by hand, I would say. Even though I do enjoy a little bit of the grind, that's like too much for me. But yeah, I would say like the indie developer renaissance we're seeing with like Adam's work with FWA, your own work obviously with $1 audit, very based. It's really just speaking to our sense of there's no reason why we should slow down. We can accelerate, and we can build all of our own tools for ourselves. And ideally, if we do it openly, we save time. For me, I use your products. I use Adam's products, and it's sort of like a much better vibe to build in versus like asking a vendor, "Oh, can I integrate with you?" or whatever. If it's on chain, you can just use it. And with AI, I think we're just going to see like everyone just putting everything on chain because they're cheap like me. They don't want to pay for maintenance, so just put it all on chain.
I love the utility here where you're talking about, it's cheap, so I'd rather just put it on chain, or I want it to pass the walkaway test, so I don't have to mess with it, so I don't have the liability. Like there's all this, like there's like a ton of utility to your cypherpunk-ism, I guess, if I'm saying it correctly.
I mean, I don't want to be like an edgelord about it and be like, I'm building everything to resist the man, resist the state, when I'm really just building a swap tile or something. And really, it's more about interruption, because like Cloudflare goes down. Is that censorship, or is that just like incompetence? We can avoid incompetence by just using the blockchain more. Unstoppable programming isn't about, fighting power so much as just making things work. Like there's so much software that just like does not work. And if you can use the blockchain the way I'm doing it, and ideally it doesn't break on our demo right now, then you've covered that base, and I think everyone can get behind that. It's not just a crypto thing, and I would say that'll be probably like a theme I'll try to stress more these days. Is like this is inherently superior to have like self-executing, self-hosting software, and you can do that on Ethereum, and it's credible on Ethereum. You could build like ZSwap on an L2 or like an Alt L1, but those have been around for 10 plus years with like 100% uptime. So if you're gonna like really build like immutable, unstoppable applications, you're gonna do it on Ethereum. And thank God it's like actually cheap to do these days. I think if I was like deploying this around the CryptoKitties time, it would have been like thousands of dollars. In this case, it's like maybe like 20 cents, a dollar to build all this software on chain and then never have to pay another dime again. Like that's an incredible deal and an easy pitch to like any new developer. Like why would you want to pay hundreds of dollars for a worse software experience for yourself and your users who use Ethereum?
Hell yeah.
So hopefully this is illustrative, because like, telling people about it is one thing. Saying, here, run with this, try it out, and apply that to your own DeFi product, I think is like a much better statement. But
and I just swapped
plans here.
I just swapped to FWA from ETH, and then I sent ETH to another account. So I did like multiple on-chain operations here, just by going to zswap.way.limo.
Finance.
And there's probably like a ton of different ways you can get to this front end. Like if way.limo is down, I can go to eth.limo. And if eth.limo is down, I could go to eth.link. And if eth.link is down, I could still somehow go to the smart contract and read the front end. What's your, I don't know, do those things ever go down? I'm sure they do at some point, but that was a good point about incompetence too. Like never
I can,
censorship resistance is something that could be incompetence.
Gateways, and I'm sure like some people are watching this would love to say like, gateways are still a problem, and I would agree. Gateways do go down, or there might be like takedown requests that they have to honor for whatever reason. Competitors sometimes do that just to mess with you. So if you want to avoid competitors just messing with your stuff, you want to put it on the blockchain. And the way to get around the gateway is anyone can like actually call the read function HTML. Literally it's just an HTML function, and get the document back and then run it locally themselves. So that's one point. And I think it's sort of a porcupine approach, where like if you can present that level of stability, there's less incentive to even try to like mess with your gateway, right? Because it's like people just go around it. So ideally, enough porcupine, enough smart contracts involved with like the decentralization aspect, I can still have like fast front ends. It's just like there's less incentive to mess with it, and lead to worse user outcomes. Because at the end of the day, it will just encourage and make it seem more based. If people are like, oh, Ross's thing is so cool that gateways are rejecting it. Let's like access it. It's like forbidden DEX or something. So it's really like all gravy. Like once you can like put the fallback into the HTML function on the blockchain, and then like let that ride in the background, you can then get fancy. And that's also an approach I'm trying to do with like the zfi.way.is or .limo. Is that's a front end for the Z coder. You get the same metadex aggregation across sources, but then I also use like CowSwap or Matcha, aggregator of aggregators, because like people like this format of the forever exchange, but I always want to compete for the best rates. So in terms of like the approach, I would say is layer it. I'm going to try to bring ZSwap up to the market standard to have the best swap rates, the best throughput. But there's nothing stopping you from, having an IPFS front end or a faster front end on top of this, as long as you just can assure that it falls back to the on-chain thing if the gateways or the front ends have problems. And I think that makes sense. Uniswap, any other exchange, they should have a fallback. I think, Aerodrome, they were smart in that they had an IPFS fallback, at least when they had their socials hacked. These things are going to happen. People like to say if there's any way to mess up, somebody will do it for you, or like if there's any like way to attack you, you will be attacked in DeFi. And that certainly holds true. There's an incentive to take money here because it's literally, these are bearer instruments. You take someone's ether, you got the ether, right? So this is kind of the game you're playing. You need to like definitely create fallback plans. And by starting with the fallback, I feel like I can confidently iterate and try to improve the user experience and the outcomes, but I at least have that like basic security aspect. And that basic security is like, I think speaks to people, because like even if you can get like maybe a couple cents better rate on another exchange, if you know something is inherently more secure and won't drain your wallet, that's going to be your preference, your go-to, versus like something that might be a bit more competitive, but on a bad day you get hacked or something. So I think that's also like the posture and philosophy here is like security first, and hopefully I'm not jinxing myself. I'm saying like the most secure thing ever. That never does anyone favors, but I think like that's my intention, and that's the intention I'd like to present. And all the work is there for people to inspect and critique, and ideally like point out ways to be better. But this wasn't built in a vacuum. This wasn't random. I've been trying to build this for well over a year now. And at least with ZSwap, I think I've brought it together to prove the point that like not only swaps, but I can have like send, I can have LP, I can have like the core things that like make up an exchange as almost like a native protocol for Ethereum now. And that's another thing in my mind is like certain things for Ethereum should be like singletons. They should be maybe even precompiles. ERC20 standard, I've argued, should be its own precompile on Ethereum. Like, why do we have like different burnable, mintable factories for the same thing? Like, why do we repeat the same code over and over? If you want to think of like Ethereum as this like ocean, it's like we're filling it with trash for no reason. Like we can clean the trash, we can like coordinate a little bit on like very basic, uncontroversial things. And to credibly do that, people have to kind of like lay down their arms and say like nobody owns this one piece of the puzzle. We can all say, this is a ownerless, feeless ERC20 factory, or this is an ownerless, feeless, DEX aggregator. And then we can iterate from that point and save block space. We can decongest the blockchain, and it's a better outcome for everybody if Ethereum is overall cheaper, right? Even if I'm competing with somebody, we both lose if Ethereum is too congested for anybody to use it, right? People just go back to the banks. So that's like another approach here is like, if you can build what I'm trying to build better than me, just like tell me, and I'll probably use your thing, right? So it's like, come on, like, bring it, right? So
building the ownerless, permissionless versions of things and just making them available for people is awesome and commendable. And when you do it, it's like very, very useful. But the problem is there's like not enough incentives, I don't think, for people to do that. Like, how do you survive, I guess, if you spend all your time building? Oh, wait, what was your question? What was your answer?
No, that'll be in the transcript. People have various motivations for what they do, right?
Yeah.
And there's also like goodwill, and even Ansem knows about goodwill when he talks about like why Ansem coin has value. He's like, because I'm Ansem. It helps the Ross Campbell brand, right? If I'm like doing these things,
yeah,
it's not all masochistic or against my own incentives to do things that ideally are popular and increase interest in my own work or in supporting what I do. And in terms of incentives as well, there are also practical reasons to decentralize by means of ownership, by having tokens that control things. And that's also like related to liability so much as the uptime concept. One aspect here is the token list itself. Does Ross Campbell want the liability and the responsibility of picking a token out of the hat every week of what's the token people should trade or look at? That's not a game I necessarily want to play. So like having a community angle is important. There's also obviously like a financial incentive that if you can increase interest, virality in your product through tokenization, and in this case I've tokenized the token list, I've tokenized the legacy ZAMM, LP fees. There's things that like developers shouldn't shy from. You shouldn't be afraid of creating DAOs or tokens. I think you should be maybe more wary about like keeping all the tokens and all the power for yourself and doing like DAOs in name only, because like regulators and also users aren't very impressed by that anymore. But if you can like credibly do an airdrop or create a point system where people get rewarded for using your thing, and it becomes lendy enough that there's like a knock-on network effect where even though you have a token involved with the project and somebody could technically fork it without a token, there are reasons why people want to keep coming to your exchange, because they feel like there's more activity, there's more eyeballs, there's going to be more traders that give fees to LPs because there's a reason to trade there. There's energy, there's a vibe, there's like a destination. You want to create a journey for you and your followers, your supporters, and ideally a network that isn't just code. The things I want to build here, I'm not going to win just by writing all the code, right? I would like to think that. Most coders would like to think you just write all the code
They wish.
and everything just works out for you. You need people, you need excitement, you need a community, you need people to believe in that there's a upside for them as well, in order to compete against centralized counterparties that will always, cut, cut loose and play dirty games. So yeah, I think like airdrops, just do whatever you can. And at least from the DAO perspective, the control over listings, control over upgrading and versioning up the Zswap exchange is something I've also incorporated here. It gives me some sense of there's a journey here where, yeah, like Ross can get hit by a bus. That's one thing I like to say. I should probably stop saying that. There's the lock away test aspect, but then there's also like, it's not just about me deploying something and running away. The thing should be improved. It should become competitive. It should version up. Software, especially like my front end, I know that there's probably things that could be better in this front end. So what does the next version look like? How do I get people to care enough to tell me what should be improved? That's why I have a DAO that ideally can shoulder this responsibility with me. If I walk away or I need external input, they can collaborate with me and make this exchange even better and deploy the next version on chain through the Zswap factory. So that's another part of the Zswap thing is the front end smart contract has a create to factory in it where it points to the next version, and then that can leapfrog to the next version, and so on and so on. And like I said, anybody can say, Ross, we're going to do our own thing. We like what we're doing here. We're going to create our own parallel track in Zswap. Yeah, that's all cool. But maybe go with the energy, go with like the liquidity. Liquidity is obviously a problem for any exchange. And let's pile on. Let's build like an actual community DEX. And it's not just about me doing fancy code at that point. It's about like actually like improving outcomes, right? So that's something I'll try to emphasize is crypto like improving the world? Is it improving outcomes for people financially? We have tons of people who do well in crypto, but like at what cost? People who got rich from crypto trading meme coins. Who was on the other side of those trades, right? It's not all like lollipops and unicorns. Like there's some bad stories. So I would like to see us create value, create on-chain companies, improve software, and improve the network overall. And then yeah, ideally if we create enough value, we can share that. And that's like the goal of any ideal community or network, right? Is that you create and you share, and there's like improved outcomes overall. And I know that's like all wrapped up in something as silly as like an on-chain front end, but it speaks to that because that's the pure intent of having the upgradability mechanism is who gets to decide what the next version is, right? And
I can get the HTML right here. So cool. Like this is the HTML for the site buried in the contract somewhere. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's not a LARP. Yeah, that's another thing. It's like I wrote an article. I'm not just like saying 100% organic or 100% on chain just to say that. Like you can go and look at every piece of the code, and yeah, it's an on-chain application.
And use it and swap and send and supply liquidity and launch a token. There's so many things. Different like put in orders. So there's so much like tech behind what you built here. And I think I've seen some tweets from you where it's like, okay, I built the router, then I built the front end, then I built there's a lot of pieces that go into. I feel like there's probably even some kind of like on-chain order book that you're doing here for the orders. Is that something separate? Like we haven't talked about that yet either. We just talk about all the little modules that come into making this. Like, are we talking about like 50
I could talk about this for
like hours. How many smart contracts are involved in making this happen right here? Because you said it's like 10 just for the front end, right?
Yeah, I mean the quoter is I think 4 contracts in total. Because there's like a very old, crusty, quoter contract that I've been like building on. There's a V4 patch contract because Uniswap V4 added protocol fees recently. So I was like, okay, I have to, accommodate that, Frankenstein a bit around that. And then, yeah, there's like other just like library contracts that I had to add. So the quoter itself, I think it's around 4 contracts. There's the Z router, which is actually pretty simple. People can appreciate it. It's about 1,000 lines of code. It just has simple methods, swap v4, swap v3, swap curve, and a multi-call batcher. So you can just like do swap v2, swap v3, swap curve, and do that all in a batch, and then sweep, do whatever you want. For developers, that's probably a lot easier than the bit twiddling of like universal router, I would say.
That's a good point. You can
yeah,
just point your AI at the router and say, "Here's the contract I want to go from. Here's the contract I want to go to. You go figure it out." And it wouldn't even use any of the front end. Yeah.
Yeah. You can totally have agents run with the router and skip the front end thing, and that's also probably a potential future we'll see soon enough, where people create ephemeral front ends that are like, yeah, that's Austin's ephemeral, like, on task front end for just this one transaction, and it's boom, it's gone. I can see that happening, and that's also obviously very cool. There's certain canonical front ends, like a swap file, that I think like will always be a thing.
Yeah.
Or like a send button with an input, ticker. Like there's not many iterations to be done there, so I feel comfortable putting those on chain as like canonical ways to access those smart contracts. But yeah, you mentioned the order tab. There's, I think, 4 smart contracts there that are involved. So there's the swap board smart contract, which the Ethereum Community Foundation deployed, and I route through. There's my own take on the swap board, which is supporting NFTs as well. So you can create a limit order for an NFT, 1,000 DAI for a millennium NFT or something like that. I have something called Dutch board, which allows you to do a descending auction for an NFT. So if you want to like list your NFT for 1,000 ETH, you can let it coast, similar to how ENS does auctions. I have something called floorboard, which I haven't seen before, which might be interesting to people, where you want to, approach an NFT, from the bottom up. That's also another order book smart contract.
To purchase really the point here, like you would be saying, I want to buy it at 0.01 below the floor right now, but then like slowly I'm going to go up until it gets closer to the floor and actually make the purchase.
Yeah,
interesting.
No, like my brain's not working very well, but yeah, obviously you don't want to like say I'll pay you a lot more for this as a starting point. Right. You're going to start below. So that's how that works. But the key here is that all these different like smart contracts with the Z coder are put together to get you the best rate for what you want to buy. So if there's like an order book fill that would give you a better price than an AMM, the Z coder will find that for you. And if you would get a better rate because of slippage between AMM and the order book partial fill, it will do that for you as well as a split order. So I think like this is actually potentially very competitive, just like on chain, because you get like on the block real time coding. And yeah, metadexes will usually have a problem competing with that once we have like a decent enough order book flow. There's off-chain sourcing and all those things, but I've seen some DEX aggregators even like go away in the last couple of weeks or so. So I think for like some traders, they want trading experience that they can come back to day after day or year after year, and it'll just still be there. In this sense, the V0.1 ZSwap, this will be there forever. All the order books will be there forever as well. There's no admin on any of those smart contracts, and it'll find a rate across all of those. Yeah, you're looking at some of the NFT stuff. Yeah,
I'm digging into here. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the weird thing is each order itself is an NFT. So like if you have a limit order, maybe for like a auction of like your founder shares or something, you can lock that NFT up somewhere. Maybe your investors can hold it, or there's other like Legos here. And as a smart contract developer, it's not always obvious how people will use my smart contracts. So like what I always tell people is like, if you can make it into a token, you just do that. Like if an order can be an NFT, you don't lose anything by making an NFT. You gain visibility. Sorry, it's like very loud where I am.
No, all good. We can hear you. Yeah.
Bit of a struggle to have a practical conversation.
All good.
Yeah.
Okay. So, go ahead.
Quintessential slop though is like there's a lot of pieces, but what I think here is the goal is synthesizing into a single swap tile and then using smart contracts to do that synthesis. That's like my white whale is
amazing.
Maximum composability, maximum complexity, but like simplicity for the end user, and everything being handled in terms of like the abstraction by smart contracts as well.
I feel like you had a mega thread a little bit ago. Let me see if I can pull this up. But it's like all the kind of stuff you've been building. This is very useful. I'm glad that you put this tweet out here because I've been following you for a long time, and like
I need
just
a link list.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was like, oh man, Ross is coming on. I gotta like do my research, and then you tweeted this. I'm like, oh, thank you for tweeting this. This is everything I need. Do you want to go through just kind of like talk about? So I'm guessing all of these projects that we'll see here, even like the NFT project, it's all on chain, like it's all censorship resistant. Most of the front ends are on chain. Like you want to just kind of go through, like basically you're going through and finding all these different like utilities that you might need, whether it's a multi-sig or a DAO or an NFT. Like there's so many different things that you can do. Yes. Do you want to kind of go through these? Like let's maybe just start with the multi-sig. I mean, you probably use it for adding tokens to the token list too?
I do. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I guess you thought ahead on that one. So like the multi-sig is like the quintessential security setup for like anybody's wallet. Is like all eggs one basket. You don't want to do that. You need like at least a co-signer, your wallet, or your friends. So building a multi-sig for myself made sense. I also wanted a time delay aspect, because even if you like sign something with other people, you can still be a problem. Once it hits the chain, you see, oh, the recipient was actually the wrong address. We change our mind. So a time locked multi-sig was something I felt like if I could deploy that, I would be able to securely manage protocols on Ethereum. I would be able to take on a responsibility for things like the token list, for recovery rules that I've installed to other DAOs as well. I have a collector DAO that I think I tweeted about today. The source code multi-sig has a right to help protect the NFT collection there in case like any funny business happens. We could walk through that a bit, but the multi-sig for me was like table stakes. If I'm gonna like go into this like operational role on the blockchain and tell people I'm an admin at any level, I need to do it seriously. And why did I build my own thing versus Gnosis Safe? Around the time I released this, I think the Zodiac time-lock module had a little bit of an issue. So I was like, plurality is cool. Coke and Pepsi. People like having options, and I might as well bring my own option to the table at this exact point in time. I want to do this thing myself, and so I launched multisig.software. For some reason, on Elon's website, I can't share the link multisig.software, so people should access it through multisig.way. In order to actually use
because it gets marked as spam or something, or what happened? I had that before. Like everything I build.
When I first, and I've probably seen schizophrenic about this, but when I first released it, it wasn't an issue. It was showing up. People were able to access it, and then like a week or two later, I noticed when I was sharing again that it actually refused to let me share the link at that point. And then I was like, wait, what? I've shared it before. Like, why can't I share it anymore? And then I went and looked back at my own thread, and like all those tweets were hidden if I like looked at it from an account other than my own account. Weird. So that was like very frustrating to me. But we don't have to talk about all that nonsense. Like social media is a mess these days, and maybe
there's a reason why you want censorship resistance. This is a perfectly
I'm like
clear,
deeply triggered
reason
at this point.
Yes,
but like for my own purposes, I need like reliable software that people can't just shut me down for no reason, even if it's like totally a mistake. I don't want to deal with their mistakes. So I shipped multi-sig software. People can create their own time lock multi-sig, and obviously, like if I'm going to recommend something to people, I'm going to use it myself. I'm all about the dog fooding, and I have the multi-name resolution here for .eth, .way, .way domains. Big fan of plurality, as I said, and just like making it easy for myself to even use the blockchain. Not hating on other people, it just like feels like I can build a custom experience for what I want to do more easily if I control the smart contract and the front end, at least for the multi-sig.
The time lock is definitely something interesting here. So let's say you go to add a token to ZSwap, ZRouter, token list, whatever it is that you owe the thing to, and it's like the wrong token. There must be 30 minutes where you have like an eject button, or how does that work?
There's a 1 hour lock where I can press cancel and get the quorum of 2 out of 3 to cancel it. And that's all she wrote. That's all I need.
Okay. So it's just like a transaction. You have to get the signatures together to do. It goes into, okay, this will execute in an hour, but it's not executed yet once you have all the signatures. And then after an hour, it executes, or you can get together the signatures to cancel it. That's great. Like pretty straightforward mechanism.
Yeah, because it's like you don't know until it's on the chain what's actually going to happen. Like the chain is the ultimate test, the ultimate simulation. So like when I press the button and sign and queue it, I can then go on Etherscan or ideally through other sources as well, and see the exact call data right there. And I know once I press the execute button after that hour, that exact call data is going to get passed to the target. That feels a lot better versus like, okay, I know the exact call data as the front end's telling me it, but like what it, who knows? The front end could be lying, it could be hacked. Even any number of things can happen, whether malicious or not. So I think like people can definitely appreciate irreversible transactions are a superpower, but also a curse. And like if you're gonna do anything in like volume or size, like if you're gonna send $1 million on the blockchain, like you're not gonna lose anything by like taking your time and like having an hour to like look at the transaction on the blockchain and just like let it marinate for a little bit, right? So I feel like it's an easy enough pitch for myself that I can also make to others that want to do something in size or in a DevOps or admin role of a protocol or another smart contract. Like you definitely want the rewind button in case you make a mistake that you can't take back forever, right? And like I emphasize this forever thing in a positive light often for my software, but you can well appreciate the negative light of forever as well, right? So,
well, okay, so let's talk about some of those like
saying.
elephants in the room here. So your swap is fully decentralized out there. Anybody can get to it. Anybody can fork it. Anybody can build on top of it. But like you and someone else are using a multi-sig to decide what tokens actually show up in that front end. And if I have some shit coin that I want to trade that I just launched, I can't just like go to your swap and do that, right? Like it's not going to be in your front end until you decide, right? Like you have to decide. Yeah. And then once you do decide, like it probably took you a while to get FWA into your swap because there's even this time delay, right? So there are some like UX trade-offs here with the way like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I have a nice little answer for that as well. I have a fast mode on my time lock multi-sig. So it's a 2 out of 3 multi-sig, but if 3 out of 3 sign, it can go faster.
Okay.
So that's not a requirement for these deployments. You'll see like an option in the deployment menu if you want to have fast mode. But I think the fast mode is like very useful for the practical purpose of like, what if there's a very hot token and the first hour is like the critical hour? No one's going to be impressed by my time lock at that point, right? So if it's a non-financial transaction, so a listing transaction, I don't feel so bad about rushing that one and adding it to the canonical token list. And you're right to point out that there is some element of discretion and gatekeeping in the sense that like I decide what goes into the canonical list. But you might notice in the 02.zswap.way.limo that there's like several token lists in the dropdown. There's a launchpad token list where I don't have anything to do with that under the canonical token list. And that's kind of like, yeah, anyone can launch a token using exchange, and it's not up to me if it gets listed or not. It'll be ranked by liquidity at that point. So this is the V0.1. I have if you type in 02.zswap.way.limo, it will show a sort of nightly build or preview of my next version that I'm pinning down.
I didn't type it right.
Oh, is it not shown?
No, I typed it wrong.
Yeah, like the anime character.
Oh, you put it in the chat, and then I will. If you put it in the chat, then I can easily grab it. Throw it down here.
Numbers.
Yeah.
All right. Let me see if I can manage that. 02.z. But the point I'm trying to make is that I'm very well aware that people will complain. They'll be like, Ross, why aren't you listening to this token or whatever? And I want to make sure that they can list whatever token they want or launch whatever token they want. The other thing is, of course, even in the V0.1, you can add a custom token if you want to. That should be an option. Yeah. At the very bottom of the list, there's a click add a custom token. So if there's some
paste the address
one you want to trade,
yeah,
and it's like it'll be in local storage at that point. It'll show up
and it'll go find the liquidity, do the swap, like everything will work. Like so if I go grab some just like shit coin that just got launched, that doesn't happen on mainnet Ethereum very often. Well, maybe it is, but you don't hear about it. You hear about this on other chains more than anything. But I go copy the address, paste it in.
We don't have that, but
yes, and I mean, yes, I wish we had more of the economic activity that's happening. Yeah.
Maybe we'll have that goes at some point again. The DAO will come back, but we can be brisk about this. There's a whole like philosophy of what Ethereum should be used for versus not. And for me, ideally, it's just like the market is Ethereum, the market is the internet, and it's everywhere at once, and fair. But yeah, I think like the element of fairness here is it's not fair to my users if they're confused all the time. There's just 50 scam coins that all have the same token logo and name. So some sanity is relevant, and that's a value add. People can fork my exchange and add a completely ownerless, no curation token list, and that's totally kosher. I do think people would prefer a little bit of curation and canonical token listing, and that justifies the DAO. And it's not like I'm trying to shoehorn that aspect. It's kind of like inevitable that some sort of TCR curation is good for the health
TCR
experience.
Yeah.
Shout out. The TCR is actually very interesting. If you want to check out what I'm actually up to here, go to zfi.way.is. That my little exchange.
Drop it in here. Yeah.
I've got exchanges on exchanges, but I have sort of the faster Ross is trying things out in the Arena exchange ZFi, where I have like different pop-up projects. One of it's just Collector DAO, but another, if you go to the Z logo in the top left and click that, you'll see Z list at the very bottom. Z list, yeah. And this should ideally load. Maybe it's Connect Wallet. It's not looking very sexy right now, from what I can see.
Let me connect.
Yeah. So obviously,
there we go. Connected.
Yeah. Cool. So this is a TCR.
Cool.
And the way this TCR works is you actually bond the DAO share into a smart contract with an NFT, a PFP NFT that I airdrop on people, and they get an NFT back. That's the inverse of that NFT. Inverted colors, dynamic SMP, all that cool stuff. But the point here is like skin in the game. So the source code, the multi-sig token list that you see in the drop-down menu is not ranked by me. I don't decide what is the most important token all by myself. I might decide the curational aspect of this is the actual, logo for that token, because maybe the crowd shouldn't decide what the logo is. Maybe they should at some point. But there's like certain objective things that I can add, but then people can decide the importance of tokens by actually ranking them by staking, shares, and yeah, that's exactly it. You can get some music.
Sound. Can you hear the sound?
I can hear the sound.
The sound's happening. Okay, so I've got some Zorgs. I pick that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a token that I want to bond it against. Is that right? Or am I bonding the NFTs just to get voting rights, and then I put those voting rights onto the token?
Yeah, it's obviously a little bit complicated, but you bond your voting shares with the Zorg NFT for a duration, and that amplifies your weight over time. And that weight you can allocate to different tokens in the list. It's obviously like a little bit niche and kitschy, but it's like if I'm gonna do something as boring as a token list, I might as well try to make it as fun as possible and also a little bit like crypto economical. So that's the whole emphasis here.
If I pick one and then I pick
one
of them, yeah, these are mine. That's why I connected. Oh, these are mine, right?
Okay. Oh hell yeah. Okay. So it should allow you to, if you add. Do you have any like the DAO shares? I don't think it'll allow you.
I don't have those. Nope, I just have Zorg. Okay. I was hoping that I could.
You need like at least one way of DAO share.
Yeah. Okay, so I need DAO shares also. I almost got it. Bad demo, my bad.
But it's definitely on me to make that easier, because it's like to benefit the DAO and myself to make it easy to get the DAO shares in there. So I'll definitely keep that in mind as probably a zap to bond and swap and stake. But yeah, that's one piece of the puzzle, and I'm glad you mentioned the token list, because like that's going to be the most contentious part, and maybe the only differentiating aspect of software these days is the governance of it. And anyone can create a ZSwap exchange, but not everyone can create reliable community ranking of tokens within that exchange, right?
So will DAOs come back? Will we have DAOs as like this is the human in the loop piece of all of this?
I do think DAOs are going to come back. I think people have been very weird about seeing the death of DAOs, and it's been like 5 or 10 years, and it's like a very big technological leap for people. Obviously it's going to take a little bit of time. But yeah, it's also like a matter of like, what do you use the DAO for? Is it a periodic checkpointing of decisions, or is it continuous? I like to do a little bit of both here, where the continuous aspect is if you're a DAO member, you get to rank the token list. We don't have to have a vote every time. You just add your shares, and that's all she wrote. But then, yeah, major things like the upgrades of the exchange front end, that'll be a vote, and I'll be able to ping you probably on Twitter tomorrow when I want to do the V0.2 proposal, and lock and load that. That'll be very fun to watch. Maybe some fireworks there once we get that DAO vote settled, and actually have the autonomous, self-perpetuating exchange where we're updating the actual code as a DAO ourselves too.
That's great.
But yeah, I think DAOs will come back, especially more so like in a veto aspect as well, because like I think agents and AI, I think everyone's
they'll do the thing, but if they do the thing wrong, you'll need to yeah.
And the time lock is definitely a big part of that too. It's like I'll have my agents sign and submit transactions, but then I can be like, whoa, no, bro, don't do that. Yeah. So I think that's like the most humans can probably participate at the rate at which AI will be useful, which will be superhuman speed and discretion, is saying no to things versus affirming and taking positive action, because it's like you'll be left in the dust by people that leverage agents to be positive, because these things don't sleep, and they're as smart than us consistently at like 10 times the speed. So it's like, I'm not fighting that trend, but I know I can at least participate in something where I say no, maybe every once in a while, and if something obviously isn't in my interest. And I think this will apply, and we're going to show DeFi DAOs how this works, at least for governing protocols, but this will apply to like grants and governance of institutions and a lot of other things. I would say is like agents should do the work, humans should say no, but ideally have much better standards of living. So even though we're not as active, it's all good because we have other things to do with our lives, right? Versus just like pushing boulders up hills.
So many questions here. Yes. Okay.
My zen.
So pushing the boulders is your zen, or okay? Wait. Do you have a second? Yeah. Do you have a second to go over the hour? I guess would be my first question, because
it's been an hour. That's crazy.
Almost. Is that okay?
Yeah.
You got. I mean, just whatever. Like a few minutes. Like, let's just keep wrapping, because I want to go through this list, but I also want to talk about
frequently that I just want to talk for like forever now.
Goes. And you got a little coffee in you. Like, yes. Yeah.
Everyone to talk to me. Come talk to me now, and then I can just like go bugger off for another month or something. But no, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being here. First of all, this has been a great conversation. So
this is very, very fun.
Can we go through some more of these things? So yes. What is slow, like the slow multi-sig thing, like the delay, or is slow something else?
Yeah, there's layers here, I guess. Okay. So I built slow because not everybody wants to be a multi-sig. So you have your EOAs. Sorry, like I'm having some indigestion, of course, at this point in time. But if you have an EOA and you want to send a token, but you also want a reversible transaction, you can use slow to do that without changing your wallet. That's basically the good I provide with slow. And I use this all the time, actually. You'll see me more often. If I'm sending to a new wallet, I'll send slow first, just to say, confirm I'm doing it right for my EOA. I can see that, ideally all wallets will be smart in the not so distant future, but like until we have that point, most people are still using EOAs and then use slow to instantly upgrade their security and have delayed transactions. And this is also an unchained app. You might be using it through the Web4 link I have. Yeah. So I have like this kind of like a fortune cookie type UI, which I had fun making.
Yeah.
Applying a little bit of my humanity here. And yeah, you can type in Ross.way or something. Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. And I have a keeper bot that runs.
So that will automatically finish it once the time is over. Is that right?
Yeah. Because what happens is it wraps your token or your ETH into an 1155 token receipt that gets sent to the user. So they get like a notification on their phone. Oh, I got an NFT. Cool. Someone's sending me slow. And then rather than them have to unwrap it after the delay.
Oh, the target destination gets something immediately. So they get that ping that, okay, yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
Get a poke.
Yep.
The poke is important, I think. Just to tell people they're actually getting paid, or like to put them on notice. There's a lot going on there, but the keeper thing is just so that after the time delay is lapsed, that it automatically unwraps to them. So for all intents and purposes, they get the USDC or the ETH. They don't have to like unwrap the NFT to get the underlying.
How do you incentivize your keeper? Who pays for the keeper?
Yeah, I mean, there's money there, right? So you if you time it well enough, so the gas difference in the gas fee and the keeper deposit is profitable. Solvers will naturally just do that for you. I've had this happen to me where I forget to use flashbots or something, and somebody front runs my keeper transaction. And I'm like, oh, good game. You got like $1 or something. That's always fun. But that's also the beauty here. Is like the dark forest will do the job for you. If there's money to be made in poking a contract, they'll do it.
So it's your own money, though. If I were to select a keeper here, I would be putting a little extra ETH in to make sure the transaction gets taken care of. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Pretty much. Yeah. I'm not running a charity here.
Just wondering, like maybe because like every once in a while when I build something like this, I'm like, I want the UX to be great, so I'm gonna load it up with ETH to start and then figure it out later. And it's like the figure it out later that gets really tricky. And no, if you just set it up so a little bit of their ETH goes into this like fee, it gets taken care of. It's all good. Just wanted to know your idea behind it. Okay, so what's the major then? Now, I think a lot of people know what the Moloch is. You have the rage quit, you have the shares, very cool DAO structure, minimal DAO. You were big on Moloch back in the day too, I feel like.
Yeah. No, I co-wrote V2 with Amin and the Open Law team and people from Metacartel, DAO House. And the point there was investment clubs, because we're like, the Moloch V1, sacrifice for public goods, that's very cool. But what if we like give ETH and get tokens back? That's always cool too, right?
More sustainable.
Moloch V2 is designed for the purpose of investment use cases, and that was very fun as like applied legal engineering. Worked on Moloch V3, which DAO House is servicing, and Majeur is more of my maximalism approach, where arguably this is a V4 where I've turned the shares and the seats and everything into a token. Even voting, every time you vote, you get an NFT. So I call it Measure as a reference to force measure, which in legal terms is just like, balls to the wall. This is like Moloch maximalism. So yeah, there's a lot to say there. The article, I think, lays out the pieces much better than I could ramble about. But you get voting shares, snapshot, token voting. The top 256 users of the DAO or shareholders get an NFT board seat as well. That is very useful for airdropping purposes, so you can like do a programmatic airdrop. That's I think what I did for the NFT drop I did on Zorg for the little PFPs you stake for the token list. I actually airdrop that on the NFT holders in this DAO. But kind of like what I wanted was everything I liked about the Governor Bravo system of like snapshot voting, plus the Moloch, maximalism where everything can be financialized in some respect, even voting itself. And like I said, you can actually pay people loot tokens for voting in our system. And in the DAO I have for ZSwap, we have that Futarchy system enabled where if you actually participate, you get loot shares in the DAO. So I encourage people, if they see me propose something, definitely vote on it, because you'll get NFTs plus a stake of loot. So if we like pop some stuff in that DAO treasury, you'll have a claim on that as well.
Services. So many good things here. Sorry, keep going. Go on.
I'm doing a horrible job explaining this shit.
No, you're not.
Yeah,
I'm following. I'm a smooth brain too. If I can't understand it, I will ask a question, because I know that other people listening have smooth brains too. But I'm following. I'm with you.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to like be fancy here. Wait names was just like I wanted a simple NFT name service where it's like one smart contract is all I need in order to have like an on-chain identity. And for the purpose of like minimalism, Way is the smallest unit of Ether. That felt Lindy as like a branding perspective. I also am a big fan of Wei Dai, I should say, who is like the guy who pretty much came up with Bitcoin. Everything that we consider, today as crypto, it started with Wei Dai. And yeah, a little bit of homage is always nice, especially people that don't necessarily put themselves out there. I want to make sure that they're remembered. Way names is sort of like that sort of personal project that also I think is very useful to other people who want an on-chain name, an alternative to ENS, because they want to do maybe more experimental governance. So with the Way domain name service, we actually have a DAO where the named NFTs themselves are the voting rights. So the more named NFTs you have, the more domains, the more voting shares you have. There's no secondary token. Yeah.
And that's used
It's
to like upgrade the contracts. What all does the voting go into there? Like
it could be, yeah.
Is it actual capital management? Because like, okay, so like DAOs basically I separate into there are knobs and switches that we need to make, and that makes a ton of sense to have people vote on, just in case someone dies or someone loses an account. Like being able to have people vote on what we should adjust this thing to, and being able to have human in the loop. And then there's like capital management, and that's when DAOs go south, because like there's $1 million or $100 million in this contract, and all these people want to figure out how to extract that $100 million to their friends. And that's when like DAOs, that's basically why DAOs
people are very jaded. Yeah. I understand why people are jaded about DAOs. I mean, I've seen many things I've wished turn out better with DAOs. But at least, you know, if you control your own experiments, maybe they turn out better. With WayDAO, the specific rights that the DAO has is the renewal fees. So how much it costs to renew a Way domain, it can set the ETH rate for that. Because ETH is a volatile asset, you know, ideally ETH is going to be worth a lot more in the future. I think it makes sense to have a knob where, you know, a name that costs 1 ETH today, you know, maybe costs less ETH in the future because ETH is like 10K or something, right? I think that's helpful for renewals and for people that want to create new domains and new users that come onto the scene maybe a year or two from now, to have a name service where like things are a bit more affordable and there's like some, you know, management in terms of going with the market. This can be programmatic, and that would be my obvious preference. Is like if I can make a programmatic chain link, you know, USD or OK system, that is, you know, suitable for that. That may be my preference. But with anything, if I don't have the smart contracts written yet, I usually put it into a DAO controller, and then it's like, let's figure it out. I'd rather do that than mess up the smart contract and like brick the entire system, because I'm like going too hard at once, you know, on every aspect. But like the non-controversial aspects of the name service is like, how much does it cost to renew your name? Maybe that should be adjustable, you know, price sensitive to Ethereum itself. And then yeah, the treasury, like what happens to the fees? I appreciate the GNS approach where it's like, you know, nobody gets the money. We're airdropping on every Ethereum holder, burning all the money. But I also think that you can do good with money too. You know, the world is not built entirely on burning money. You know, maybe the DAO can actually build better software for the name service. Maybe it can upgrade the smart contracts. You know, some continuity is cool there too. So yeah, the treasury is also DAO governed. The more names you have, the more right you have to decide the destiny of those funds. Ideally, they go towards productive things. And I think also, here's something I would say with DAOs and what I see with like DAO treasuries is it's much harder to extract if AI is doing everything these days in terms of work. So like people, when I first came onto DAOs, it was more like this magical thinking of we'll just pull money together and then we'll achieve an objective with that money. You know, there won't be a death by 1,000 cuts for that money of extractors to get to that objective. So I think like people can credibly come together and like pool ETH and then say AI is going to execute our objectives. We'll vote on proposals and the general emphasis of what we want to do with that money. But we're not going to let service companies just like, you know, camp out and just snipe everything and take all the money for themselves to make up work for themselves.
So you're saying the DAO would express their intent of how to use that capital, and AI would basically like fulfill that without a bunch of humans in the middle extracting. That's cool.
Yeah, so that's why I would like to color some optimism, because I know people are probably groaning when I'm like, we're going to govern money together. And they're like, no, that's never worked in the entire history of mankind. People will fall asleep at the wheel, and there will be extractors who are useless people who are only good at making proposals. They'll just take all that money for themselves and do nothing with it. But people, ideally, because I'm on this call and I can make a case for myself and my intention and, you know, how I view these things, that I will be vigilant and I will push for the hardcore AI accelerated DAO treasury. And, you know, I'm not going to hire humans to do things that can be done by robots. If a robot or AI can do it, that's how the ETH should be allocated to an objective that can be serviced, right? You know, that's the end destination that I really want. And maybe that can make people feel a little bit more optimistic about pulling money together again and not just burning it to say like, you know, fuck everybody. I think there's like probably a better outcome if we can actually
optimistic.
be maximalist about automation.
You're optimistic on even the capital formation of a DAO, which is like the hardest part. That's great to hear. It's not even like control
applied towards good. Yeah.
Because of AI. I think that's the kind of the turning point or something, is because AI is really good at taking your intent and executing on it, just like those service companies were supposed to be doing while they extract.
Yeah. And this is like the whole story of like law, contract, everything is just people making promises about what they're going to do in the future and then hoping that happens. And if people can just make agreements about money, that they'll just combine forces and then nobody has to do anything, and just the force multiplier of the capital and the AI come together, I do think things can like actually change. That we can like have better software, better networks, and like better IRL stuff too. You know, DAO should do obviously name service stuff, but maybe there's like all kinds of other DAOs and things where we have like IRL use cases where AI accelerates, and you know, it doesn't have to be like so crazy. Even event management, AI could probably do great things for Ethereum events where like it does all the bookings and brings people together. And there isn't, 80% of that capital just going to people who think about planning. Not to hate on people, but like, I do think that there's a spiritual moment here where we have to like say, we have a problem and we're just going to start with the AI and then see if that's better. And then, maybe we'll add humans back in the mix, but like, we have to like shut it all down and just go full automation. And
there's
see
definitely some like questions of like, okay, we get the DAO together and we express our intent, or we agree upon our intent, and then X, and then the AI does it. But I think there's like verifiability, there's some steering of the agents, but maybe not. Like maybe there's like, you basically have a fund that goes to paying for the inference, and there's a system that accepts the money to run the inference, to have the AI do the intent that you said, and then maybe even some verification layer on top of that. Like all of that is possible, and certainly like much more possible in the future. So I don't know.
Maybe the verification is a token. A token price is saying you're not doing the job, we're selling. You know,
right.
There's some economics to AI doing the thing it's supposed to do, where the only role of human is exit rights. You're entering a system or you're exiting it with your capital. And that is a way to vote and also a way to grade something in terms of performance. And hopefully that like feedback loop is a lot more like specific and real, you know, because we have like results we can look at. And I think if anyone's going to figure this out, it's probably going to be you, man. Because like what you're doing with like $1 audit with like Claude and, you know, automation in that respect, like I think I would really like to see what you do with DAOs, you know, and like giving them a little bit of a treasury, like what kind of mischief you can manage. I would be bullish on that. You know, I'll try my best, but I'm probably more bullish on your agentic treasury.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll keep going for sure. Like your on-chainness is really what we should all aspire to.
Let's keep each other accountable.
There we go.
Like, we're all peers, and I think that's kind of it. And that's why I like Dono, the guy who did the DNS thing. He's like, okay, bro, I'm going to fork you. And are you going to actually do a DAO or not? And I was like, yeah, we're going to go full DAO now. I have to, prove the point that DAOs are worth something. And I intend to prove that point. But that's how we keep each other honest, is like, we put in the work and we challenge each other, and we aren't weird about it, ideally. I don't like it when people hide from each other or pretend each other don't exist. That's not how you like build community or outcomes. You have to challenge each other. You have to like get in there. You have to compete. And then you can actually just chill because things get done. Things need to get done though. That'd be the huge emphasis, I would say, for Ethereum and society in general. And ideally, technology has a role to play there, and fairness technology is important. Put it all in the blockchain, right?
And the last thing, speaking of all on the blockchain, is the Zswap stuff, which we kind of already explored. Is there anything left to touch on this project going through this whole thread?
I mean, I don't want to like
token
beat a dead horse.
The router.
Yeah, it's like
the front end.
I hope things become self-evident that it's like an exchange where you can swap tokens and make investments and do all the things you consider DeFi in a place where it's unstoppable and you don't have to rely on me or worry about what I'm going to do on a given day. That you have the product, and it's almost like your exchange at that point. You load it on your computer. You don't even have to go to my gateway. It's within your wallet at that point.
You didn't even talk about the Zords. Are these like a small enough thing that they don't make the thread? You probably have so many small like long tail contracts.
Yeah,
didn't make the
I don't
cut.
want to like overwhelm people, and it's not like everything I do is good, you know. Like some things are like probably bad. I like to stuff, and the story here is like I did I think like 4 or 5 prompts with Claude, documented my process.
Yes.
And the experiment was like, can I make an NFT collection just using like a couple prompts?
Can the NFT make an on-chain NFT, or can the AI make an on-chain NFT collection?
And yeah, and I think the on-chain SVG thing is especially good use case for AI for like smart contract programming, because like there's not much of a risk of a screw up or financial issue. Like you're gonna import a Solidity, you're gonna import an Open Zeppelin ERC721, and then you're gonna add a little you know, of the garnish of the SVG, and you'll see the art. The art either works or it doesn't. You know, you're gonna render the NFT, and you'll know at that point if the AI did a good job, and then you can just press deploy. And that was what I did. And I was trying to promote this idea of VibeFi at the time, like vibe coding DeFi projects. You know, I think that things have already accelerated so much at this point that we just call it like coding now. Like AI is just going to like,
yes, vibe coding is out. The term vibe coding is out. You're just building things.
Yeah. It's like rude to say vibe coding. It was like everyone's doing it. But this was like sort of like my point of like, I'm not impressed by anyone who release a 10K NFT project at this point. If you're gonna pretend you're actually drawing it, if you actually draw it, that's awesome. But like, I could tell a lot of NFT projects are pure slop. And like, if I could just show that in like a couple prompts I can make a decent enough NFT project, and I'm happy. I get an NFT project and I airdrop it on my friends and my supporters, and we're all happy. And I think they came out pretty well. You know, I don't know why some of the elements are in those NFTs that are there. I don't know why the H is there. There's like other interesting artifacts and nuances that are Claude aesthetics maybe, but I think it came out pretty cool. And they especially look cool when you invert them. So yeah, I think it's like the art is the process. The process is the art, and my process is ideally open enough for people to understand. You know, it speaks somewhat to my humanity.
I want to make a QR code just to your GitHub, because I think there's so many good things on your GitHub that I want to put that up.
Okay.
People want to go look.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to keep.
What are you working on? What are you working on these days? Wallet Beat, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my foot in the door.
Working your thing into there.
My multi-sig, yeah. Because like findability is an issue. Like, you can see that my links are broken.
Shout out Eat Skills. Way names, Kohaku. You fuck around with Kohaku?
Yeah, of course I do. I mean, it makes a lot of sense to just sort of like aggregate privacy. Like, you know, privacy is like, you're gonna probably want to use several protocols at once anyway. That's like even more private. So I'm a big fan of like, from the wallet perspective, just embedding privacy protocols at that level, and yeah, mixing it up. I'm a big fan of Kohaku and what Cassandra's doing there.
Yeah, the Kohaku CLI is the way to go. If you just fork the CLI, or just bring the CLI down and give it to your agent and let it rip, it'll be like, okay, send me some ETH, and I can mix it in for you, and it'll just do it. Proof for it didn't happen. V3, you got a lot of good like on-chain protocols from other creators in here. I didn't expect to see so many like external projects. Yeah. You like bring a lot of people's stuff in and look at them. This is very cool.
My only like socializing is like
yeah.
It's like making like PRs or something, or like poking people's contracts. So you'll definitely see like more of that, like than anything else.
Right.
That's how I get around.
I would say there's probably some things that are hidden here. Like I don't see as much of your projects in here. Are they just like older and not in here? And I mean, of course, everything you do is open source.
Are organizational. So. Okay. I try to put them into organization GitHubs, and I realize even that is fragmentation. And this is also why I've started just putting a Z in front of everything. And it's not because it's like self-importance. It's like I'm just branding it. It's like, this is my take on an AMM, or this is my take on a tokenless C-list or something like that. So if that adds any sort of legibility to the chaos of my work, I'll definitely embrace branding and creating organizations around the work as well, with DAOs, the steward certain aspects of protocols for me. That's also helpful, but yeah, you'll notice more of my work these days is also going to be in organization called Source Co, or Source Company, which is sort of like a catch-all for people that are like me that want to build these unstoppable apps, in the way that we want to build them. Like we're going to create a common, sort of soup, common code repository, and we'll collect our sort of wares there. So that's where I currently have hoisted multi-sig, and my ZFi stuff is in source code. And that should hopefully make my work a little bit more legible to people. Who knows? Maybe Source Company will be a force at some point. We'll see.
Okay, so on Slop.Computer, we've talked so much about the on-chain part. Usually we talk a little bit more about AI. Can you just, you said that you use a lot of AI, but can you kind of finish this out by talking about your stack and about how like you go from shower thought to on-chain app and like what tools you're using? Yeah.
So like I typically start on Remix when I'm like doing a smart contract product, because that's how I actually think.
We got a Remix guy
like,
still.
I like can't think unless I'm like writing. I think like some people are like that. Like when you're like writing a tweet, that's when you know what you're actually writing.
Yeah.
Or thinking about, or maybe that's weird. But yeah, Remix is probably the most important tool I've ever come across for like actually like writing code, because it allows me to sort of have the feedback loop of I write it, I compile it, I deploy it, I get to play with it. Remix even populates the write and do functions for you. These days, I do a lot more with like
you're like
Claude and Codex.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I try to be manual when I'm like in the sort of like mental space of like what am I even trying to build.
Interesting.
And like I said, it's like more, just like getting into it, and then I know what I'm gonna try to do. And then at that point, once I have like the objective and like the shape of the elephant, as it were, like the protocol contract, I'll go to Claude. Oftentimes, I'll just copy paste into the actual browser app of Claude or ChatGPT, and I alternate between the two because they definitely have their own strengths and weaknesses. And then I'll, try to get a read on, does this work? Is it, is it somewhat sensible? Is it secure? I do a lot more AI security auditing because, these are super human coders. Like, you'd be stupid not to have AI review your code at this point, right? But I would say, like, once I have the smart contracts, I then kind of park it into Visual Studio Code, import Codex, Claude, and then have them build simple HTML wrappers around it. And then the process at that point is, I just deploy the front end and the protocol contracts, and then ideally it all works together. But I tend to start from the Solidity and like the actual smart contract. And then if I get that part right, then I can build the wrapper around it and push more of that to the AI, because like I don't think I'm a very good front end coder at all, right? So it's like, the things I can control are maybe the shape of the contract, but then after that, I definitely need a lot more help, and the force multiplier of AI definitely comes in handy to actually get it into other people's hands. Before AI, I'd like write so many smart contracts, I'd post them on the blockchain and be like, maybe people can use it on Etherscan, but that's not a very compelling argument to people. It's like they want to see an app and a proper user experience, so they don't take it seriously or think you're taking it seriously either. So I think like AI's helped me sort of dress up my approach to my code to make it seem a lot more reasonable. And then like also use the familiar design conventions of like, the swap tile. That doesn't have to be reinvented. The AI can help me build a swap tile very easily and magically. I don't want to do that myself, but
okay. So
it's probably pretty familiar. It's not a good system, but it works for me.
If I can reiterate that a little bit, you live in Solidity at first, and you actually write Solidity functions with your fingers in Remix, and you call those functions
on YouTube,
and you see what they do. What's that on YouTube?
I think on YouTube a couple of years ago, I actually like timed myself writing by hand in ERC20 token. I was like really weird about it. I don't know.
That's cool.
I think that helped me get in that sushi swap, because these guys are like, what the hell is this guy doing? He's underemployed or something. We need to get him on board. I was more intense about the handwriting smart contracts, I think, like when I was cutting my teeth.
And this is what the rare skill guys, the rare skill guys, basically when you get into learn and rare skills, they're like, you have to like have ERC20 memorized and be able to like bang it out just like that. That's like one of the skills they start
cleaning
with.
Your rifle.
Yes, exactly. You're cleaning your rifle. That's a great point.
You gotta know those basics.
Yes.
Muscle memory.
Yes. Okay, so you are in the code, you're using Remix to kind of get some feedback, and it's like a very manual process. Like you're writing functions and you're seeing what they return, and you're writing code and seeing if like the Solidity does what it needs to do. And it's very much like writing hardware code, right? Like you have to be like, every single line is very important, and you're paying attention and making sure that everything is exactly like it should be. And then once it kind of does the thing you need it to do, then you give it to Claude and Codex. And interestingly, you're not talking to like Claude code. You're just like pasting it into like Claude AI and saying, is this contract secure? Does this do what I want it to do? Am I saying that correctly? Yeah. And then like maybe it'll output something, and then you'll put it in Codex and say, is this correct? What do you think about this? Like, just like the vanilla front end, like basically.
Build me the front end. Yeah, let's get this out the door. And
right, and then build the HTML. Yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
So I think like I very much lucked out that like the simple HTML wrap is like now becoming more of a standard approach and output of AI coding. Because yeah, that was kind of like my bottleneck was the front end, and I leaned fully into AI from the get-go to get from my smart contracts in the front end. And AI had no problem writing a several thousand line single HTML file that I could like play around with. And from then, I guess my naivety helped, and I was like, yeah, why not just store this inside the smart contract too? It's like A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's like not a very complex, thought process, but it like I think is obvious in retrospect that was going to be the approach, and probably where a lot more people are going to gravitate towards. With ephemeral deployments too, it's just like very quick. Contract gets written for you to do a specific strategy. You get a custom front end, or at least a custom button to review it, and then you kind of like do your custom transaction. I think that could be a cool thing for more sophisticated users. But hopefully, what I can do is I can build like fixtures and very standard simple DeFi apps that become like the canonical DEX or something like that, and people can use that, and they can read the code with their agents because it's simple enough, and they can introspect about it. Rather than say like, I'm so fancy, I have like 5 code bases just for swapping. Like, I don't think that's cool anymore to be complicated about things. Like, no one's impressed by that. So I think like ideally we can all be like a bit more humble. The process is more about like what you're trying to achieve, and if you can get other people to care about it too. And then can you actually deliver on a timely basis, in a very, very fast changing competitive market where people are obviously reacting to what you're doing as well. I'm sure there'll be cool responses to what I'm doing. They'll challenge me and push me a little bit too. So AI's got my back there too. Yeah.
Okay, so there are a lot of builders that are coming into the space that will read a smart contract and get nerd sniped into Ethereum. Holy shit, this is so cool. But like their process of writing is usually not what you like. The reason why you're still using Remix is because you've written Solidity for a decade now, and you're just like used to writing Solidity. But like for someone who's brand new coming into the space, they're finding all these cool mechanisms in smart contracts. I'm assuming that you would probably recommend they talk to an AI about their mechanisms and have the AI build the first version, or not. Like I feel like you have like an OG standpoint, and it may not work for someone brand new. Like
the AI is getting more sus. Yeah,
it's getting more what?
Sus.
Oh, it's sus. Okay, that's not good.
No, I didn't say suck. I didn't say suck. I said sus.
A sus, like I got a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Yes, I got a 10-year-old.
I'm noticing something is happening. Something's in the water with the AI.
Okay.
And I feel like if you're trying to do anything that matters with smart contracts lately, they're gonna gaslight you a little bit. So I really like telling people like start from the smart contracts, and it's not even nefarious necessarily. I think Anthropic and these other companies, they're kind of afraid of smart contracts because it's liability. They're writing financial code, and people would interact with it, and they don't want to be blamed for it. So I'm noticing AI is a bit more gun shy than it was even a couple months ago. Like I used to be able to just say, Claude, take this key, deploy some contracts for me, like do some stuff for me with this key. And nowadays it's like, It starts freaking out and giving me all these like reasons or like equivocations. So I think like people who are attracted to smart contracts are already probably opinionated, maybe a little bit schizophrenic, and they kind of like want to have control over the objectives and goal setting aspect. And I think the goal setting protocols is spoken by the smart contract. It lays out the entire plan, the sauce. And I think like if you don't watch what the AI is doing, or if you start too much with the AI at the smart contract level, it's going to take shortcuts, or it's just not even going to do the full thing that you want it to do, or it's going to like be a little bit tender-footed about it in ways that don't really make you competitive. It might add safeguards where you don't need safeguards, or even outright refuse to build what you want to build. So
if you're a crack developer, you're saying you should get in and you should learn Solidity, and you should be starting your projects with Solidity with your fingers.
Yeah, it's like the source code of like it's like magic. You want to know the name of things, the true name of things. You don't want to have like the wizard assistant that tells you what the magic you can do is, right? So like anyone that's interested in like that, the pure property rights and the power of smart contracts, like you have to approach it, from the first principles and get your hands dirty a little bit to really, maximize your potential as a developer versus being told what you can or cannot do with the smart contracts. Because like Claude, I'm pretty sure it was telling me I shouldn't put all my stuff on chain.
Or like what are you doing? Why are you putting all this?
Yeah,
like this is just going to be expensive.
Yeah. Some screenshots where it's like, this won't fit, bro. I was like, yes, it will, because I've done it. I've already deployed it. I'm actually telling you I've already deployed it now. So I think like, just the mere fact that I'm still getting a little bit of these weird feedback loops. Other developers who don't know better might get steamrolled entirely. So if you don't want to get steamrolled by AI, like maybe learn the Solidity first, and it's not that complicated. A lot of it has been commoditized by libraries, so there's not like too much new work you have to do in Solidity. You should learn how to write a timed escrow. I love the pure example of time as the factor that the blockchain will enforce. So, like that's so objective and true. No one can lie about what time it is usually, right? So like I think like that's a really good example of like the pure power, and the pure programming is like play a little bit with those very specific property rights, the bundle of sticks, get a sense for it, approach that, get it into your hands, and then hand it off.
And if you write a timed escrow, set it up so at the time anyone can execute it and swap the things or send the things, and provide the correct incentives. And if you learn about the incentive design along with writing the correct rules, you'll have all the ahas you need about why blockchain in that very simple way.
That will grow the brain cells. Once you also learn about keepers and like ways to make people want to press the buttons on the smart contracts, like the Moloch proposal deposit idea is brilliant. I love that concept where like someone's going to execute the proposal because they get paid to execute.
And put it out there and someone will. That's the most magic thing. The first time like someone like actually does that, you're like, what just happened? Like someone somewhere just executed this thing. How do they even know about it? It's so cool.
Yeah, that's the self-executing aspect. Is like you also need a little bit of the game theory and the financial incentives, so people press play. Right? You have to get people incentivized. So
okay.
It is. Yeah.
Let me close it out. Let me have the bot. He'll read through the transcript, read through your research.
Hopefully there's some money shots.
Hey, Ross. Question 5 from me. If everything you build passes the walkaway test, what does winning actually look like for you in 5 years? What's still standing that has your name on it?
Where will you be in 5 years, sir?
I would like to be an on-chain adjudicator.
Okay.
Judge.
Like the human in the loop kind of?
Internet law. Where like I've built enough infrastructure where things can sort of just like the economy can grow where that is relevant in the first place, where people would care about on-chain decision making. And then I would like to, I don't want to be in the trenches deploying smart contracts for the rest of my life. That's not exactly fun, and it's cortisol maxing. I do want to like take care of myself at some point. But I think it'd be very cool to be in certain strategic DAOs, certain guilds, as it were. I feel like guilds need to see their light again as well.
Let's
where
bring it back.
with other cool people doing things in the blockchain. Social recovery. Something is that you can build social recovery as a smart contract and technology, but it's useless without like people or agents. You have to still coordinate. So I think a lot of my stuff, and even just this conversation in and of itself as a beginning, is engaging with the network. DAOs are people. It's not just only tokens. So there's levels to this game, but I have to start at the base level and make sure Ethereum, the things I care about, actually work that I want them to. And then ideally there's emergent properties that come like once you can build an ecosystem like that where decision making and the stakes are such that humans are relevant.
Dope.
And there's big decisions to be made.
So many cool on-chain projects you've done. Keep going, keep shipping them, keep building cool things, make them pass the walk-away test, and everyone can fork them and build on top of them. They're very cool, man. I really appreciate it. Just keep walking on the walk-away test. Yes.
Just
all right. Claude will give us an outro. I'll get some music playing.
That's
really
the show.
Appreciate it.
Homies, Ross, a.k.a. 0R0Z, lawyer turned Solidity engineer. We got the whole gospel. Contracts that pass the walk-away test. Front ends that live in bytecode. Token lists as NFTs. And a stack that starts in Remix, not in a chatbot. Learn Solidity. Write the rules. Let anyone press play. Thanks for hanging with us on the Slop.Computer. See you next time. Watch out for impersonators.
Hell yeah.
For sure. Stay sloppy.
Stay sloppy. Soon. Yes. Thank you.
Don't match your energy. So, peace out now.